Introducing your 2025 national champion Arizona State Sun Devils based off of a near perfect season.
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Richie Bradshaw, and I will be your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils. A shout out to my everydayers who are here today, and thanks to all of you for making us your first listen of the day. Apologize for a later episode, crazy day. That's okay. We will be back on track tomorrow. Today, I want to finally get to a podcast that I've had planned since the start of the week, but have not been able to get to it until now. And that is to welcome you to the 2025 national champion Arizona State Sun Devils. If the perfect season happens. Look, there's a lot that needs to happen on offense, starting with Sam Leavitt. That's where we start the show. I got to introduce you to this defense, who you know pretty well, but is about to ball out. And then we wrap up the show with, man, I got a lot of stuff. I got some awards to hand out, some All-Americans, and the path to get there. All of this comes into play for how Arizona State wins a national championship. Let's start with the offense, and let's start specifically with Sam Leavitt. Leavitt is the key to the whole team. What a surprise. The quarterback is the most important player on this team. You need a quarterback to win a national championship game. Let's look over the last several national champions. Will Howard this year, he had over 40 touchdowns. You can say what you want about Will Howard. He's a quality quarterback. He is an elite college quarterback. Is he a next level quarterback? You can ask all those questions, but at the end of the day, Will Howard was more than good enough to win a national championship. Okay, let's go back the year before. J.J. McCarthy. People will rip him to shreds. Oh, he benefited from a good team, blah, blah, blah. Well, he was a first-round pick. He was a fourth quarterback off the board based on his potential. So, sure, he didn't necessarily will Michigan to the national championship game, but there was really good Michigan teams before McCarthy that didn't sniff the championship game. They needed McCarthy. Georgia won 2 championships with Stetson Bennett. He is going to eventually be in the College Football Hall of Fame, and he is one of the best quarterbacks that the Georgia Bulldogs have had since the turn of the century. I mean, some of the other teams, Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson, 2 NFL quarterbacks, won it for Clemson. We've seen some interesting teams, like Alabama had a national championship with Jake Coker, but like that's the one exception, right? Because Joe Burrow won a championship. Not Bryce Young, not Tua. Mac Jones. Mac Jones, he's whatever. He was a first-round pick. Like, you have to have good quarterback play to win a national championship. So I look at Sam Leavitt, and I'm like, we're only going to go as far as you can go. I mean, seriously, unless ASU's team turns into that 2015 or 2016 Alabama team that won a natty with Jake Coker. No offense to you, Jake, if you're listening to this, but that team definitely carried you. I don't think there's any debate about that. You have to have good quarterback play. Ohio State in the first ever playoff, Cardale Jones had one of the most mythical runs we've seen in college football in a 3-game span. You have to have good quarterback play. So Sam Leavitt, the only way that ASU even sniffs a national championship, let alone wins it, is for Sam Leavitt to have a historic season for the Arizona State Sun Devils. The closest that the Sun Devils have gotten to a national championship recently was 1996 with Jake Plummer. Jake Plummer finished top 5 in Heisman voting that year. I think he finished top 3. It was a exceptional season from Jake Plummer. And he was arguably the biggest reason they got to that point. They had a great defense. They had a good cast around him, and they were well coached. But take Jake Plummer off that team, they are not getting to the national championship. Sam Leavitt has got to be able to get there. And there's certain numbers that he needs to accomplish to get them there and to potentially win a Heisman Trophy. If Jake Plummer was able to be close to a national champion, but also be close to winning the Heisman Trophy, then Sam Leavitt needs to get into a similar position. But it's going to look like one of the all-time seasons for the Sun Devils. I have numbers in mind. First of all, he needs to throw for 4,000 yards. How many times do you think ASU has done that in their history? Let me save you some time. Once. They have had one quarterback in the history of that program to throw for 4,000 yards in a season, it was Brock Osweiler in 2011. Very recent, and I wouldn't say obscure because Osweiler was a good quarterback for ASU, but he wouldn't have been the guy I would have assumed. I would have assumed Andrew Walter, even Mike Bercovici, I think made more sense to throw for 4,000 than Osweiler did. Speaking of Mike Bercovici and Andrew Walter, funny enough, he needs to have the single season record Sam Leavitt does for touchdown passes. That is 30, which was set by Walter in 2004 and Bercovici in 2015. If Sam Leavitt throws for 4,000 yards and over 30 touchdowns, you're in a very good spot. He needs to make sure he doesn't turn the ball over. He didn't really do it too much this year. At least most of his interceptions came towards the beginning of the year. So you got to keep it 5 or fewer on the year. And then I would love to see him continue to be a force as a runner. I would love 500 yards and at least 5 touchdowns. He does that, he might just win the Heisman flat out, but that's going to keep ASU in really good contention. It's not just about him. Supporting cast has to step up too. Starting with this running back field. Cam Scadaboo's gone. I've said before on this show, you will not replace the player, but you can and need to replace the production. He had almost 1,800 rushing yards. He had over 20 touchdowns combined from receiving and running. He had over 600 receiving yards too. So you got a lot to step up for. But you got Kyson Brown, Jason Brown, Raleek Brown, Alton McCaskill is there. Those are the returners. And then you added Kanye Udo to that backfield. They can easily replace the production, not the player, the production. Numbers I have in mind here. You need 2,000 rushing yards, 600 receiving yards combined from the runner. So I don't need one guy to run for 2,000. But if I can get that group of guys to combine for 2,000 rushing yards and 600 receiving yards, we're in a great spot. I need 20 rushing touchdowns and 5 receiving touchdowns from that group. Again, that's the entire group. If I get it from one guy, that's awesome. But I just need the group to do it. And the formula is there. The formula is there. Kanye Udo, that's running back 1. Raleek Brown, elite running back 2. Or you can see a 1A, 1B with either Udo being 1A and Kyson being 1B or vice versa. I think Kyson's in for a huge year, and I think Udo is going to find an immediate role for ASU. Raleek Brown, I think that he's a really good change of pace for you because Udo and Kyson Brown are going to bring a lot of force. Raleek is going to bring a lot of finesse, and he, to me, is going to be the key to your passing game. If you can find a way to get the production from the passing game solely out of Raleek Brown, and the other guys can do it, but Raleek Brown, remember at USC, they tried to move him to wide receiver. He is that capable of being a dominant receiver for the team. ASU could get that out of him. And then the rest of the guys, Jason Brown, Alton McCaskill, let's get what we can. We didn't see them nearly as much. I would like to see them more this year, especially while you try to navigate and figure out what to do. There's going to be a lot of eyes on Jordyn Tyson as well. Sam Leavitt's number 1 receiver. The Leavitt to Tyson connection is going to be pivotal this year, especially if the running backs aren't able to do this. And again, I think it's more than doable. That is a super deep, super talented backfield. But if they don't, well, then you're going to need Jordyn Tyson to, similar to Leavitt, have a historic season for ASU. I think it starts with the single season receiving yards. 1,405 yards from Sean McDonald in 2002. By the way, that season from McDonald, one of the best that ASU has ever had. He needs 1,400 yards. He had over 1,100 this year, and he missed 2 games. He was going to at least get to 1,300, I would say. Who knows if he had a chance to get more? Who knows if ASU has a deeper playoff run? I need him to get 80 receptions. I would be eyeing the single season record, which is 87, also by Sean McDonald, same year, 2002. I would love him to try and get there. I just need at least 80 receptions to prove he is the number 1 receiver for Sam Leavitt. And then I need double-digit touchdowns. I need at least 10 touchdowns from Jordyn Tyson to be the guy for Leavitt. It's not just him. You need that wide receiver too. But I think you're going to lean on role players this season compared to having a number 2 guy who's 700 to 800 yards or maybe flirts with 1,000. I don't think you have that this year. I don't think you need that this year. There's a cast of guys that look good. Malik McClain, he had 2 catches for, I think it totaled like 87 receiving yards and the touchdown that he had against Texas. He's a big play weapon. I look at him. That is my post-up guy, and I would love to see him turn into the red zone guy as a 6'4", 6'5" receiver. Jalen Moss, that's your complimentary guy. I think that he's one of your go-to targets, just like the check down guy, the safe option. I think he inherits that Melcon Stovall role for this team. Jaron Hamilton from Alabama. Moss, by the way, transferred from Fresno State. Jaron Hamilton transferred from Alabama. That's my deep threat. That is, I would give him half of the role that Xavier Guillory had, because Guillory was a deep threat, but obviously he eventually became more than that. He's my deep threat. And then Noble Johnson, the other notable receiver, transferred from Clemson. I don't know what to expect from him because we have not seen him in college. Right now, I just have him in my notes as a rotational receiver. Shimon Mateer, the tight end, I need him to replicate what he did this year. I need him around 500 yards, at least 5 touchdowns. Just give me what you can do. Obviously, I would love a breakout season where he contends for the John Mackey Award, but I just need him to replicate production. I need some of the guys behind him to be good. Kamari Anderson, the transfer from Kentucky, Shaden Fortier, redshirt freshman, AJ Ia, the true freshman. Just give me some production. And then finally, the offensive line. They played well this year. They got to play even better next year. I need under 20 sacks. I need the run game to continue to be what they were. I need over 5 yards a carry. I need 2,500 rushing yards. Does all this sound crazy to you? It should, because it's supposed to sound crazy. If ASU is going to win a national championship on offense, you need all of this, or at least the vast majority of it. You have to have it. That's the whole point of this episode. How do you win a national championship? You need a near perfect season. This is about as perfect as it gets for offense. Defensively, they are not far behind. We talked about it on Monday's episode. Check that one out if you have not. I compared how ASU can replicate the success that Ohio State and Notre Dame have. And that defense is not as far behind as you think. That's coming up next on the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This message is brought to you by our friends at PrizePicks, the place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions in winnings. PrizePicks has changed the game in daily fantasy sports. Whether it's the playoffs or the regular season, PrizePicks has made it easier than ever to win big while enjoying all the football action. Of course, it's the playoff time, and there's no better way to get in on that action than with PrizePicks. Here's how it works. It's more or less on a statistic for at least 2 players. If your picks hit, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. You heard me. 1,000 times your money just for making a few simple picks. And for me, it's all about some hot takes during the playoffs. That's how I love risking it all. I'm going to be looking at those Travis Kelce yards this weekend. I'm going to be looking at Josh Allen to score at least 1, maybe 2 rushing touchdowns. And then whatever Jaden Daniels has, it's hard not to pass up on that. And it's fun. It's easy. You predict it. You have fun. And PrizePicks Flex Play will allow you to double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. And with the app, you can get your winnings fast, sometimes in as little as 15 minutes to transfer to your account. Ready to run your game this football season? Download the app today. Use the code, Locked On College. You'll get $50 instantly after you place your first $5 lineup. Just $50. All you have to do is place a $5 lineup and use the promo code Locked On College. Don't wait. Take your game to the next level with PrizePicks. PrizePicks. Run your game. Shout out my everydayers who are here every day, but thanks to all of you for making Locked On Sun Devils your first listen of the day. I want to talk about this defense now, because defense wins championships. How did Ohio State get to the championship? Well, they had a great team from top to bottom, but they needed Jack Sawyer to get that strip sack and take it to the house against Quinn Ewers to put the game away against Texas. How did Notre Dame get to that point? They had an elite running game. They did not pass the ball, but boy, oh boy, was that defense good. Defense wins championships. At the end of the day, that's how Ohio State was able to put it away. They held on when they needed to, and they were able to control the pace of the game. That's how they won. And of course, with good play as well. But for ASU, on top of the elite, perfect offense I lined up for them, they need this defense to be equally as good. Starts with sacks, man. ASU did not get sacks this year. 24 sacks as a team. Clayton Smith, your leader, with 4.5. He got the majority of those sacks in the early part of the year. Elijah O'Neal, 4 sacks, not bad. Prince Dorba, Jacob Rich-Kongaika each had 3. You've got to find a way to get those guys to double their production. Clayton Smith, 4.5. I need you to get closer to 10. And he's capable of it. In his 2 years here, I have predicted him to get double digits each year. And guess what? I'm not backing off on that. I need him to double it, though. Let's get 9. Elijah O'Neal, 4. Give me 8. Prince Dorba, 3. Give me 6. He's had 6 before. 2023, his first year here, he tied for the lead in sacks with 6. He was banged up this year. He should be 100% healthy. You continue with your elite run defense, these guys who set the edge, and you start generating sacks. They get pressure. They get knockdowns, but you have got to finish those plays. Defense is going to be even better. That defensive line in particular, I need sacks. Ohio State had over 50 sacks this year. Notre Dame had 40-plus sacks this year. It's not a coincidence that they were in the national championship game. ASU didn't get there. They didn't even have 25 sacks. They didn't have 30, let alone the other numbers. You've got to get better. I'm saying you shoot for 40. Shoot for 40 sacks. You'll have that opportunity. I mean, Clayton Smith with 9, Elijah O'Neal with 8 gives you 17, and then 6 more from Dorba gets you 23 sacks. You're more than halfway there just from 3 players. Dial up your pressure everywhere else. You can get there. Let's talk about the linebackers. You've got so many guys back. You lose Caleb McCullough. Massive blow. But Keyshawn Elliott is back. I have a big emphasis on him this year too, by the way. Jordan Crook is back. Tate Romney should be healthy and back. And Cyrus Fiaseu is back as well. You'll be able to repeat your production. It starts with high tackle numbers. Keyshawn Elliott, I would tell you he has the best shot at the linebacker spot to lead the team. Ghost Rouser led the team last year, almost 100 tackles. Xavion Alford was second on the team. Keyshawn would have been higher if he didn't miss a couple of games due to injury, but Caleb McCullough was number 3. So Keyshawn Elliott, healthy for the season. He is going to potentially lead that team in tackles, but I also need the other 3 guys. Honestly, I'll say all 3 of them. Romney, Fiaseu, and Crook. I need all 3 of you to get at least 50 tackles. I need most of the tackle production to come from your 2 safeties and your linebacking core, because that means you're keeping everything in front of you. We got to start there. I need improvement in sacks as well. I just talked about the defensive line, but you need to get pressure from the middle of your defense as well. We had 4 all of last year from the linebackers, 4 sacks. At least double it. Can you give me 8 sacks from 4 different linebackers? That shouldn't be asking too much, I think. We also got to get some turnovers. They had 5 last year. That's not horrible. I don't hate that. I think you have to flirt with doubling it. Have you noticed a trend of, I need these things to double? It's because ASU's defense is right there, but I need just a little bit more. Get me some more turnovers. It's interceptions, it's fumble recoveries, whatever. Got to get those to improve, or at a minimum, replicate it, and then the secondary has to step up. Speaking of the secondary, let's start with the corners. Keith Abney, Javen Robinson, they were really good this year. I need them to take a step forward. I need them to go from really good to great. I wouldn't complain if they were elite, and they have that potential to get there. They each had 3 interceptions last year. Abney had 9 pass deflections. Robinson had 4. Robinson had one of the biggest plays of the season, picking off Jake Retzlaff to help ASU start to put the game away against BYU, because it took the momentum right out of the Cougars. Just keep doing that for me. Keep doing that for me. We're going to be just fine. The transfers that are coming in, the 2 big ones, Nyland Green and Kendrick Breedlove, I need them to find roles, and I think that there's 2 roles for them. Nyland Green, I think he can be your LT Welsh as that 3rd corner, not a nickel guy, but the one who comes in for your dime packages or to give Abney and Robinson some time off. I think he plays that role. Kendrick Breedlove, he's a slot. Boom, be my slot corner. And then I need some youngsters to step up. Obviously, I'm looking at last year's group of Tony Luz and Kuba. Ronnie Bimmage Jr., Chris Johnson Jr., and Plas Johnson. Those four, I don't need them to be starters. I don't need them to be anything significant to the team when it comes to production. But I do need to know that if something happens to the guys that are ahead of them, that I have the depth not to worry about it. Finally, the safeties. I had to split corners and safeties because they have different responsibilities for me in 2025, Xavier Alford. He was an all-conference safety this year, super reliable tackler. He had 2 interceptions. I need more turnovers, especially because I know he is super capable of it. Even, I don't know how you would distinguish him and Rouser in terms of like classic free safety versus strong safety kind of thing. I think they both have the tendencies to do both, but I need Alford to be my turnover guy. I would, if I had to place pressure, sorry to friend of the podcast, Xavier Alford, I would tell you I would love to see Alford lead this team in turnovers. He had 2 picks last year. Let's shoot for 5. Let's shoot for 6. Or let's get some forced fumbles and all that good stuff. Speaking of turnovers, Miles Ghost Rouser surprisingly didn't have one last year. I would have lost that bet. He's a darn good hitter, but I need turnovers. That, at the end of the day, you need the turnovers here. Rouser can do it. We saw him do it at New Mexico State. He will be fine. He can do it. It was a weird year, in my opinion, for Rouser to not get the turnovers compared to what he's done at previous places. He'll be fine. And as far as I'm concerned, having that enforcer at linebacker, the one who's going to lay you out, and he's going to look down at you and he's going to go, how much you want to play? You can get up. You better get comfy. You're going to have your, you know what, implanted on the ground because I'm going to keep knocking you down. Having that is huge. You do need a third safety, though, with Shamari Simmons gone. Now, Simmons did everything for this team. He played nickel. He was safety. He played near the line of scrimmage to defend the run. He set the edge against the run. It is going to be so incredibly difficult to replace him, but you have to do it. I like the idea of Kendrick Breedlove to take over that slot role. Third safety, I have 3 guys in mind. Montana Warren, the redshirt sophomore, he actually had the chance in the first half against Texas to see that role. He had some ups and downs, but I do think that he should be the favorite. You've got second-year man, Kyan McDonald, redshirt freshman. I know the team really likes him. We just haven't seen him enough, but I'm excited. And then Adrian Wilson, the transfer from Washington State. He had a connection with Javen Robinson, which was one of the reasons he was brought in. I know that he's been listed as corner before, and he by trade is a safety, so maybe he's perfect to take over that Shamari Simmons role. But more than anything from the defense, I need production doubled across the board. I need way more sacks. I need more turnovers. And they had a bunch of turnovers last year. I want to say 16, something like that. They get the turnovers. You need more. You need way more sacks, and you need guys to step up and become borderline superstars. Guys who are going to flirt with major awards in college football, whether it's national awards or all conference players. And that's coming up next because I've got some guys in mind that I need to have super duper seasons. And if they do, well, obviously you have a chance to win these awards. So that's coming up next. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Guys, and everybody else, it's not bad to have therapy. I have therapy, and it makes me feel so much better. It's a game changer. It helps to manage your stress. It improves your sleep. You can communicate more effectively. But finding the right therapist and fitting sessions into a busy schedule can be a challenge. And that's where I want to talk to you about our friends over at Talkspace. Talkspace, the leading virtual therapy provider, makes getting the help you need easy, accessible, and affordable. With Talkspace, signing up is simple. You can even match with a licensed therapist who fits your needs within 24 to 48 hours. It's convenient. You can have sessions from the comfort of your home and even message your therapist in between appointments. Keep them up to date, change your times, whatever you need to do. And Talkspace is covered by many insurance plans. Most look, for most insured members, there's a chance you have a $0 copay. It's never been easier to prioritize your mental health. And as a listener of the podcast, you'll get $80 off your first month with Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com/lockedoncollege. Use the promo code SPACE80. That's SPACE80. You're going to get matched with a licensed therapist today or very, very quickly. You just need to go to Talkspace.com/lockedoncollege. Enter the promo code SPACE80 to get $80 off your first month and show the support for the show. Of course, that's Talkspace.com/lockedoncollege, promo code SPACE80. You guys are the best for making Locked On Sun Devils your first listen of the day. Shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. This whole team, we've talked about how we've got to get to this point where it's elite production. It's perfect production. It's doubled the production. It's historic seasons in the shape of the program. That's what it's going to take to win a national championship at this point in time for Arizona State. And it's not impossible, but a lot of stuff has got to line up. If those things line up, you have a huge opportunity to get some major awards. I have 5 players, groups, and a coach who have a chance to win major awards. And based off of the season, they have a very good shot. Sam Leavitt, I already talked earlier about the Heisman Trophy, that if he does those numbers, he's going to be one of the candidates. If he wins the Heisman Trophy, I think your odds of winning the championship are skyrocketing because that tells you how elite he was this year. Having part of that is going to be needing a number 1 receiver with Jordyn Tyson. I laid out those numbers. Those are Fred Biletnikoff Award numbers. That's also going to be huge for your team. Offensive line, you always are shooting for the Joe Moore Award, which is the top group in the country. Some of the teams that we've seen win it over the last several years have gone on to have deep playoff runs or win national championships. So ASU, if you can get that Joe Moore Award, that's telling me that this offense is probably firing on all cylinders. Maybe you can find a running back from that group to compete for the Doak Walker Award. I do not think that's a chance this year. Xavier Alford, huge year this year. He does what I say. He might be your Thorpe Award winner as the best defensive back in the country. And for Kenny Dillingham, getting that George Munger Award as the best coach in the country, or the AP Award, whichever one you value more. He gets that award, and it tells me that he has taken this team to brand new heights. And we already have seen him coach at an incredibly high level. All conference players. ASU was pretty well represented this year. They should hopefully be even more well represented next year. I am going to name a bunch of guys. Like, we're going to go rapid fire, but I need you to keep in mind, I'm not saying every single one of these guys is. I think these guys need to flirt with that point. First team, second team, third team, honorable mention. And you get as many guys I'm about to name, yeah, you're going to be a shoo-in to seriously compete. Sam Leavitt, Jordyn Tyson, Kanye Yuta, Shimon Mateer. Those are skill position guys. 3 offensive linemen, Josh Atkins, Ben Coleman, Max Yoniker. Defensively, Clayton Smith off the edge, CJ Fight, defensive tackle, linebacker Keyshawn Elliott, and then the whole secondary, man. Keith Abney, Javen Robinson, Miles Rouser, Xavier Alford. Those are the guys I need to contend for all Big 12 awards. All-Americans, I think there's 4 possibilities here. Sam Leavitt, Jordyn Tyson, obviously. Ben Coleman, the offensive guard, he's phenomenal. He's going to the next level, and we saw how good he was this year. He was probably your best offensive lineman. He'll be in that conversation. And then Xavier Alford. If he wins the Thorpe Award, you're not keeping him off of that All-American award. All right. We've talked about awards. We've talked about how this offense needs to perform at an elite, near perfect level. We talked about how the defense is close to there, but how a lot of production needs to get better. Here's the path. I'm going to lay this path out for you. This is how ASU wins a national championship. It starts with not just winning the Big 12, but running the Big 12. You need to take down some of the top teams. I have 5 teams in mind, 5 games that are going to be the most pivotal games of the season that could change. Hosting Texas Tech, hosting TCU, visiting Baylor, visiting Colorado, visiting Iowa State. Those 5 games are going to be some of the most influential of your season, and I think winning those games will really get the attention of the national media to say, oh, we should watch Arizona State. All 5 of those teams could be ranked at some point in time. Those have to be must-wins. You also need to be perfect in non-conference. There's no reason you can't be. NAU at home, Mississippi State on the road, Texas State at home. No reason you can't run the table there. The ideal record by the end of the regular season, and obviously winning the Big 12 championship, I need you to be 12-1 at worst. They were 11-2 this year heading into the playoff. That is a worst case scenario in my opinion. I need you to be better. 12-1, if not a perfect 13-0. That is going to guarantee you get into the playoff, obviously, but it's going to get you a very, very good spot and position to have a run in the playoff. From there, you go into the playoff. You earned that first round bye. You're one of the top seeds that won a conference championship game. Last year, you were the 4th seed. Maybe you're the 3rd seed. Who knows? Depending on everything, maybe a 12-1 ASU team is the number 1 seed. But what you need to do, you gotta win the quarterfinal, but not just win it. You have to avenge yourself. So I don't need a blowout necessarily. What I need is that gritty team that took Texas to double overtime. I just need them to put that game away. You go to the semifinal, you just got to get a statement win. Because people are going to look at ASU and they're going to go, they went to the quarterfinal in 2024 and they played a good game. And then they won the quarterfinal this year. But, I just don't know. I just don't know if ASU is ready for the real test. You win your semifinal game, you've proven yourself. It's like, okay, ASU's legit. We've got to pay attention. And then for your national championship game, you win it and you say, baby, that sleeping giant in Tempe, Arizona State University, Sun Devils football, it's awake, baby. It feels awake now. But you win that natty, there's no questioning. And the whole country will have to look at Arizona State and go, okay, that's legit. 15-1 Arizona State Sun Devils are your college football national champions. A perfect season is the key here. You are not going to have the perfect season. If you do, then yeah, it's going to look like that. But let the dynasty begin. What is the craziest thing I said? What is the most realistic thing I said? Is there something I didn't say that you think is going to contribute, such as special teams? I didn't talk about special teams. Do you think special teams is the key to winning it all? Let me know in the comments. You can hit me up on YouTube at Richie Bradshaw36. You can find the podcast there at LO_Sun Devils. But wherever you're getting your shows, hit like, hit subscribe, turn on those notifications so you get the update whenever we post new content, whether it's bright and early in the morning or it's later in the day, because I had some stuff come out. Again, apologies for that. I appreciate you guys for supporting nonetheless. And I appreciate my everydayers who are here every day. And I also appreciate everyone who makes us your first listen of the day. We'll be back again tomorrow, normal time. We hopefully can finally start wrapping up 2024. I've got season game balls. I want to talk about some stats that defined the season. And I got a lot of Cam Scattaboo stuff to talk about. And basketball's still going on. ASU's on life support, but a big win last night can hopefully revive that. All of that is coming up. So make sure that you're subscribed, turn on notifications. It's never been a better time. I'll see you next time. And until then, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.